Welcome. Please rise as you're able for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, and welcome to our Monday, September 22nd City Council meeting. We begin every City Council meeting with our open comment period. This is a time where anybody has 2 minutes to speak for a total of 20 minutes. And I request that each speaker be concise to allow more people to speak during the designated time. Participants are also encouraged to limit comments generally to topics that are within the scope and jurisdiction of the city's ability to affect policy. Council members and staff do not respond directly to your comments during public comment, but instead will follow up on any specific requests separately. If you have materials to share with the council, you may give them to the city clerk. Over there, Clerk Queso, could you raise your hand? And she will distribute materials to the council. And I will also be keeping track of time through two methods. One is a stopwatch back there that's set currently for 2 minutes, and so you will be able to see that from the podium. And then there's also a stoplight there over by the mayor that will, at I believe the 1 minute mark, will start to give you a yellow light. So with that, I will go to our list, and we have Molly Dennis.
Okay, is this working? Okay. Thank you so much. On August 18th, the National Civic League inquired about these civic engagement cards that you all got to help address the decreased public engagement at city council meetings. Here are the facts. September 8th, along with the local news reporter, myself and half a dozen residents showed up at City Hall. We had done a prior Google search, and that is where the meeting was said to be, but in fact, it was here. It had been moved to RPU and thus silenced an incredible amount of voices at this month's meeting. Also, these constant changes in location disrupt public engagement. Having only 2 short minutes, which are subjectively enforced, if you look at the record, lead residents to believe that their voices do not matter. Moving the council meetings to 6 p.m., which is a proven dinner time, has also had a substantial drop in public engagement. I was there for the vote and have seen it happen. Silencing public comment on all Rochester social media has proved to residents that Rochester, all of you, do not care about their opinions. And having meetings behind closed doors erode public trust, and that transparency is trust. So I just ask that please do not falsely claim that our city or anyone on the dais here cares for residents, what residents think, as your actions and your policy prove otherwise. And since I have just a moment of time, I would like to also address the 311 system that fails to respond to citizens' questions. So ask that President Schubring, if you could help enforce that your statement that staff or council will follow up. I would like staff and council to follow up on all the previous months of questions that I have had about potential wasteful spending here in Rochester that will impact their taxpayer dollars in the future. So I appreciate those 2 things being done, and I hope and just want to thank you for the very brief 2 minutes of time.
Thank you, Ms. Dennis. Ms. Dennis is the only person who signed up. Is there anyone else wishing to be heard during our open comment period? Anyone else wishing to be heard during our open comment period? Seeing none, I will close the open comment period and ask Clerk Queso to please call the roll.
Good evening. Councilmember Keen.
Here.
Councilmember Miller.
Here.
Councilmember Wall.
Here.
Councilmember Fredericks. Councilmember Palmer.
Here.
Councilmember Doring.
Here.
Council President Schubring.
Here.
Mayor Norton.
Present.
Thank you. Next, actually, we've got a slight change to our agenda this evening. We do have a member of our Rochester legislative delegation here who asked to address the council for about 5 minutes. And just so members of the public know, we will extend this opportunity to any other Rochester legislators. So without objection, Senator Carla Nelson.
Well, thank you, Mr. President, council members. I know you have a packed agenda tonight, and so I do appreciate the opportunity to just bring you greetings from the Minnesota Senate. Bit of a short wrap up, although we've had lots of times for wrap ups, and also speaking about things important to Rochester. And then at the end, I'd like to just give some brief. I have a memo from the Senate fiscal staff. Taxation staff, nonpartisan staff, just about the local sales taxes. And I just want to, that's available to you and the public too, if they'd like. But I thought we might just address that a little bit too, make sure we all have the same set of facts we're dealing with. We might have different opinions, but perhaps different. But not different facts. So one, I just want to say it's a joy to be here with you. It's a joy to be your partner at the state level. Certainly a lot of things that are happening at the state certainly impact the Rochester community, the broader Rochester community. I think something that is heavy on all of our hearts, and I would just be remiss not to mention it, is the violence that we have seen to elected officials. And it was very hard to see that with my state colleagues, with the murders of the Hortman, the attempted murders of the Hoffmans, friends of us all. That was a terrible thing to see. And then the most recent, the shootings at the school, and then with Charlie Kirk. I mean, this just has to stop. We have to all say there is no room for this type of violence. And with that, I will just speak a little bit about the things that are important to you. I know one thing that I heard the most about at the legislature was local government aid. Hear about that a lot, LGA. And as you know, the legislature came into session with looking down the barrel of a $6 billion budget deficit. That's not a happy time. And unfortunately, one of those first initiatives was to really drastically reduce local government aid. I want you to know the League of Minnesota Cities, your lobbyists have been very effective at the Capitol. Sometimes you have to look at, well, what good things that were accomplished. Sometimes you have to look at that in the alternative. What bad things were we able to stop? And in this case, I was very glad that we were able to not pursue with the local government aid reductions that had been proposed by some. As you know, the Rochester local government aid in 2025, $5,030,878, and then in 2026, the proposal didn't go up by much, but it did briefly. $5,034,737 is the anticipated piece. We know that those are challenges. Excuse me. 3-year-old mother who's probably watching on TV. So we know that that's always a challenge, but that was really one of the bigger fights at the legislature, was making sure that that local government aid wasn't cut. One of the other things was, of course, bonding. That was important, always important to us. And we did pass a bonding bill. And I'm very glad about that. And basically it was focused on those things that I think are pretty well understood as real bonding needs: clean water, infrastructure, roads, bridges. Now, unfortunately, none of those were in Dodge or Olmsted County. None of the cities' top priorities were covered. And that was shocking to me after 16 years in the legislature, that the city of Rochester, not one of its priorities was addressed. But we have another year. And the bonding bill this year is looking at those priorities. I thought they were all very good priorities, particularly those interchanges on Highway 14 at counties 5 and 3. That's a dangerous intersections. We definitely need to get that. And of course, I'm still a fan of the Rochester International Airport. As in all avenues, it is so important to not just Rochester, but really the vitality of our not just the southeast part of the state, but all over the state. With that, I think I should use my time briefly just discussing the memo from Senate Council regarding what used to be called local option sales taxes. Lately, they're called just LST, local sales taxes. And I did want to just make sure that that you have the information regarding the authorization in that 2023 tax bill. I know there's been some confusion about that. I'm sure the counselors, you all have that information. 50 million for an economic vitality fund, 50 million for the street reconstruction, and then flood control and water quality, excluding the removal of the dam, that's not included. And then 65 million for the sports and recreation complex. And the one thing that I sensed some public discussion that I wanted to make sure people were aware of is that these local sales taxes must be regional in nature. So they're not for those things that are part of the city's responsibilities and budget. The other statutory requirements are that obviously you had to adopt a resolution, and it had to include these things: the proposed tax rate, detailed description of no more than 5 capital projects to be funded from the revenue, and then documentation of regional significance for each project, and including the economic benefit, share of that benefit of each project by persons residing in the business located here and also outside the jurisdiction. So that regional nature is written right into state law. And the amount the local sales tax revenue would be used for each project, and then the estimated time for that to happen. So I think that is important to know. And then, of course, that the total revenue raised for all projects before the tax expires. And then, of course, that estimated time to do that. And then, of course, you submitted that resolution along with documentation. And the legislature also just requires that those are for capital projects. And those are defined in statute as well. And but as you would know, the first 3 projects did not meet what was those statutory requirements. And so therefore there's that wonderful word, or challenging word, however you look at it, notwithstanding. So notwithstanding that requirement, Rochester was able to go to the voters and bring these 5 projects to the 4 projects to the voters for passage, which they did. And then I think there's quite a bit more on here. You're welcome to look at that. You can take the links to the language itself, the statutory language itself. And so just to note that the legislature, you asked the legislature to approve, we approved based upon the language in law and notwithstanding certain aspects of that. And then the regional nature is required. So with that, I'll be glad to cede my time, but just know that I'm available should you have any questions. We have a terrific nonpartisan fiscal service in the tax department, particularly. I speak as a former tax chair. And if there's ever any questions, just please let me know, and we'll have staff take a good look at that. Great staff attorneys who can look at those questions. But I just want to thank you for your service. It's not always easy to be an elected official, but it's essential. We need people who are willing to run. We need people who are willing to serve. And I think it behooves all of us to debate respectfully, to debate thoughtfully. And I appreciate the fact that you do that here. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Senator.
Wanted.
Thank you. Moving on to our city administrator's report. Administrator Zelms, go
Thank
ahead.
you, Council President, council members, Mayor Norton, Senator Senator Nelson, grateful to have you here. And of course, all the members of the public who are here today. We always start the report with thanking our teammates for acting with respect, integrity, safety, and excellence in everything they do, whether that's in an office or out in the field. We have many, many employees who are out in the field every single day, making sure they provide wonderful service to the community. And so just a big thank you to them for all that they do. And with that, we have some exciting things coming up. Every year we have the Peregrine Falcons in the city of Rochester somewhere. And this year they will be here Wednesday, September 24th from 4:30 to 5:30 at the Rochester Public Library in the auditorium. So that is for families and youth. If you're ages 6 to 12, it'd be perfect for you. So head on down with your family, join the Midwest Peregrine Society and the Mayo Clinic Peregrine Falcon program. Also, our partners at the Rochester Art Center are going to be co-hosting OpFest 2025 at the Art Center, 30 Civic Center Drive Southeast, 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. That is going to be on September 28th. It's a free sensory sensitive family fun day and art festival. So you can get more information on that at the Art Center or at autismresource.guide/OtFest. Also, we are celebrating a week without driving. So that is coming up September 29th through October 5th. And you can learn more at dmc.mn/week-without-driving. And that will have a whole list of events that you could participate in, all or some of them, if you want to learn more about being a non-driver or becoming a non-driver and how you can move about Rochester without a dedicated vehicle. And then the last thing that I would want to share is for those who are either reliant on or one of our participants that takes the bus, the temporary bus stops are going to be moved temporarily on Tuesday and Wednesday, September 23rd and 24th, weather permitting, because we have a construction schedule set at Central Park to be conducting tree maintenance with our partners at the Parks Department. So if you are a regular utilizer of the Central Park temporary stations, they will temporarily be moving so long as the weather holds out, although it is looking questionable. So just be aware of that and always check that out on the city's website or on the transit app before you ride. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Administrator Zelms. We'll move on to the mayor's report. Mayor Norton.
Thank you very much. I have a couple things to go through. We're going to see if we can get this to work. Whoop, a little slow. Good heavens. Okay, Constitution Week ran from September 27th to the 23rd, tomorrow. We were asked for a proclamation because of the timing of the meeting. It was requested by one of the high school social studies and government instructors in town, and that's been delivered, so I'm not going to read it here this evening. It was read at a Constitution event this week, I believe, but just to note that. I'm glad that our high school students are learning about the Constitution. We have German delegation visits last week and this week. So just to quickly highlight, we had a group that was discussing education. There are some global health exchange programs starting with the University of Munster's program. They came here this summer through UMR and did some exchanges with UMR and Mayo Clinic, some job shadowing. And I think the hope and the goal is to have the exchange go the other way moving ahead. DMC's Michael Flynn spent an hour and a half with them talking about potential as we think about Bold Forward Unbound and what that's transforming healthcare, which a lot of it is digital transformation. Both Germany and some of our Scandinavian partners that they're working with and that we're working with are really working in that area. So it was an opportunity to talk about possible links as we use AI and digitalization in the healthcare sectors moving ahead. So it was an interesting week last week, and this week, County Commissioner Senjum and I will be hosting, but some of you will be in attendance too, and we're happy to have you there to talk about DMC, infrastructure design, Bold Forward Unbound, the circular economy, and waste management. Those were kind of the topics that they wanted to learn about. So in addition to some discussion with some of our wonderful city staff, in the morning, we're going to have a little bus tour and go through, talk about bicycle traffic, bus rapid transit, roads and bridges, climate change, and he'll see, there's a dozen of them, will visit sites in the city. on a bus tour. So that should be really nice. I have been sharing a little bit with the Rochester Vision, and I skipped it last time, so I'm going to do infrastructure this time. These are the results that the community gave us about their thoughts about what the community were. Infrastructure was one of the subcategories that was highlighted. And so there were 6 areas. I'm going to highlight 4 of them. One is they requested more integration with public transit, which is interesting. We have public transit coming up as a topic in the next week or 2. They asked for more frequent practical bus routes, especially on evenings and weekends. They're looking for improved route planning, better and more frequent routes, better bus infrastructure, and integration with biking and walking options. There was also a request for high-speed rail. Oh, don't I like that? And light rail connections between Rochester and the Twin Cities. In the area of urban design and livability, the public, the community said residents want vibrant, walkable neighborhoods featuring more benches, lighting, greenery, and public art to create inviting community spaces. There's concern that was raised about suburban sprawl and a preference for increased urban density to make better use of existing infrastructure. Many emphasized investing in public amenities that benefit the broader community rather than flashy private developments. Equity and inclusion came up as a topic with regard to infrastructure. They want investments to be equitable and accessible for all, especially low income, elderly, disabled, and carless residents. Many point out gaps in access to park and transit and sidewalks in underserved neighborhoods. Affordability concerns were raised, such as utility rates and transit fares, as key barriers to full participation in city life. And there was a strong call for inclusive planning, basic services for homeless residents, and more opportunities for public input. Thank you. Safety and accessibility for all users came up as the 4th highest, and these top 4 were almost all equal in importance. Community members expressed strong concerns about safety and accessibility, especially for pedestrians and bicyclists near schools, parks, and busy roads. Demand for more traffic calming measures, improved lighting, and stronger enforcement to create safer and more welcoming public spaces. And then I'll just mention the other 2 topics without going into detail. Were environmental and health benefits, a lot about energy solutions like solar, EV charging, and geothermal. And then the last one was dedicated and connected infrastructure for active transportation. Again, continuous, well-connected networks that separated bike lanes and connecting folks to neighborhoods, parks, and all the things that they want to go see. So that's, you have 2 sections left in the RV 2050 data, but that narrows it down to 2 now. So I thought I would share that with you. The Mayor's Medal of Honor is something that was started many, many years ago. So I'm changing subjects here. And we continued that tradition. The nominations come in for the whole month of October. And then there will be a celebration in December for those that are nominated and then selected. So if you know anyone, and I would suggest you go online and you can see that we will take applications starting on October 1st for people in the community in one of a dozen different areas where people volunteer, give of themselves, give back to the community. So if you know someone in the community who's just a stellar volunteer in a club or a church or in public that you know, please consider nominating them for the Mayor's Medal of Honor. Chalk the Block is coming up. It's a family-friendly and free event. Artists have been hired and are chalking from 9:30 to 12:30 over at Riverside Elementary School. And then after that, from 12:30 to 5, the community is invited. You can come watch them do the art, but then you can come see all the art that is done afterward. There's interactive poetry, a scavenger hunt, obstacle course, face painting, and multicultural food trucks that will also be available that day at Riverside. So swing by Riverside on Saturday, September 27th. Another fun event that's coming up in the mayor's office is co-sponsoring this year, the annual education summit that's put on by Cradle to Career, one of our wonderful nonprofits in town. It is free and includes lunch. They're all-day sessions that you can go to during the day. And then in the evening, there is a keynote that's open to the public. So even if you're working or in school during the day, in the evening, Dr. Amit Sood will give a presentation to anyone who's interested, but really focusing on caregivers, so teachers, parents, childcare providers, and others, ministers who care for other people, and he will talk about how you can take care of yourself. But even if you're not a parent or one of those, if you would like to go, it's free and open to the public, and it will be at the Mayo Civic Center. And just lastly, quickly, we have boards and commissions. We only have 2 openings right now, one on the Citizens Advisory on Transit, which is super important about busing and our routes, and the other is sustainability and resiliency, and that is for a youth member. So if any of you are interested in the audience or listening in energy and environmental issues, we do have one position on that that is for youth. And our last youth graduated and went on to college, and so we're looking to fill that position. So please let us know, contact the mayor's office. And lastly, the Rochester Olmsted Youth Council is again taking applications. You have to be between 14 and 20 years old, reside in Olmsted County, so you don't have to live in Rochester, and want to learn about city, county government and leadership. So if any of those things interest you, there's a phone number to the mayor's office. Please give us a call and let us know. We'd be happy to hear from you. That's all I got.
Thank you, Mayor. I think you've got an audience for a few of those last items. So
I hope
hopefully.
so.
Moving on to our order of the agenda, I have not heard any changes to the agenda from staff. Council members, is there a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll move to approve the agenda as presented.
Moved actually by Councilmember Fredericks over here first and seconded by Councilmember Keen. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion passes. Moving on to our consent agenda, excuse me. Councilmember Wall has pulled item F7, which we will discuss under reports and recommendations. We are also pulling item F25 for consideration at a later council meeting. Any other items to pull? If not, I would invite a motion to approve the consent agenda in blocks F1 to F6. F8 to F24, and F26 to F38.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember, everybody really wants to make these motions tonight. Moved by Councilmember Fredericks and seconded by Councilmember Miller. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Moving on to our public hearings. We have, I believe, 3 public hearings on our agenda this evening. Before we begin the public hearings, I'd just like to take a moment to clarify the process for our public hearings. First, staff will introduce or present the item, and then if there is an applicant or an applicant's representative, they will have up to 10 minutes to discuss the item, and then I will open the public hearing. Members of the public have up to 5 minutes to address the item. And at that point, I will close the public hearing, and then the applicant will have a rebuttal time for up to 5 minutes. And at that point, I will invite my colleagues to ask clarifying questions of staff or the applicant, and then invite a motion. So with that, I will move to our first public hearing, which is the 2026 Annual Action Plan for Community Development Block Grant Allocations. And Mr. Brent Svenby is at the
podium.
microphone, so go ahead.
Brent Svenby, Community Development Department. This evening, I'm here to ask the council to open the comment period for the 2026 Annual Action Plan, which is associated with the Community Development Block Grant Program. So this is for the year 2026. Just so the council is aware that just last week, the city received our 2025 funding of CBG dollars. So it does take a while for the city to receive its funding, but we do get it. It seems like every year it's getting later and later, but hopefully we will receive funding in 2026. So just a little background. So the city does receive annual funding through HUD, through the Community Development Block Grant Program. The city is considered a entitlement community, and the funding is used for a wide variety of community development projects, including The goals of the program are to provide decent, safe, and sanitary housing, provide suitable living environments, and to expand economic opportunities. The primary use of CBG funding is that for lower and moderate income persons. So those individuals below 80% AMI levels would be considered low and moderate individuals. To be an eligible activity for CBG funding, you must be an eligible activity as defined by HUD regulations and meet one of the 3 national objectives of the program, which are listed on the screen before you. And this evening, we are here asking the council to open the comment period on the annual action plan. Basically, the annual action plan is how the city intends to spend their CBG dollars. And for this, we're looking for year 2026. Last year, the council adopted a new strategic plan for CBG funding, the consolidated plan, which runs through 2025 through 2029. And within that consolidated plan, there's 5 strategic priorities: access to affordable housing, access to public services, non-housing community development, planning administration, and furthering fair housing. So here's a timeline for 2026 CBG funding. So back on July 18th, I emailed over 50 individuals who have previously expressed interest in CBG funding. And then on July 19th, there was a notice published in the Post Bulletin notifying the community that the application window was open. And that application window was open until August 18th. In between those 2 dates, we did also do a press release on July 22nd. And then on July 28th, we did host an open house for anybody with questions in regards to the CBG process. Unfortunately, at that July 28th meeting, we had 0 people attend this year. Then on September 3rd, the steering committee met. They reviewed the applications, had great discussion on the applications received, and formulated what activities they would recommend for funding for 2026. So then, based off of that meeting on September 3rd, our office did go ahead and draft the 2026 annual action plan. So we are at September 22nd, where we're asking the council to open the comment period. And then we'll come back to the council on November 3rd, asking the council to close the public comment period on the action plan and make a formal adoption of those programs you would like to fund for 2026. During the open comment period, we received 11 applications for public service activities back in 2020. Basically, cities can spend up to 15% of their CBG allocations on public service activities. And the city has decided that those are the activities that the city would seek applications for. So based on our projective of the funds we would receive from HUD, we would have about $100,000 to $1,000 to allocate towards public service activities. So you will see that we received 11 applications. Based on the scoring from the steering committee, they are recommending funding 6 of those agencies that submitted for funding and the recommended funding amounts. As previously mentioned, the steering committee met on September 3rd to review the applications. The steering committee is made up of 7 individuals. 4 individuals work for the city of Rochester, and then this year we added 3 community members. 1 person was a past recipient of CBG funds, 1 was a disability advocate, and the other was the affordable housing advocate. I will say that this year we had great discussion from the committee members, more than we have in the previous years. So that was great to see from that group. And then they do have a scoring criteria that they use when they do review their applications. They're looking at timeliness, how soon can the money be spent by the applicant? Because there are regulations through HUD that the city can only have so many dollars by November 1st of each year. Basically, it's no more than 1.5 times of your allocation amount. Then they also look at project effectiveness, priorities of the council and also of the consolidated plan, and also if the project or activity was previously funded. So for 2026, here's the recommended allocations. You will see that the total dollar amount that we're projecting to have is $826,000. Of that amount, about $150,000 is projected to come from program income. And program income is what the city receives from our single family rehab program. So when we do a rehab loan for a property, we do a mortgage. When that person no longer lives at the house, they sell the house, then that money gets paid back to the city. A number of years ago, the council directed us to change the interest rate from that program from 2% to 0%. So those loans are at 0% because those loans are, again, you have to be a low and moderate income individual to get a loan for the rehab program. So they're at that 80% AMI or less. So they are getting loans to rehab their house to make them decent living conditions. So you can see that they allocated $101,400 for public service activities, $150,000 in administration activities, $464,600 in rehab activities. That's consisted of our single family rehab loan program and also a rental rehab program that we started a couple years ago, and then some administrative costs for that rehab program. And then for the last couple of years, we've been putting about $100,000 away for infrastructure projects in low and moderate incomes. Those are mostly for pedestrian crossing or pedestrian ramps at intersections. And again, those have to be in low and moderate income neighborhoods. So here's our funding kind of breaks down into about 12.3% going to public service activities, 57.4% into housing rehab type of work, 18% into administration, and about 12% into infrastructure cost. Again, here's the timeline shown previously in the process for 2026, and we're at September 22nd, asking the council to open the public comment period and then coming back to the council on November 3rd to close the public hearing and then adopt those programs for allocation for 2026. I will note that I did publish an ad in the paper on Saturday notifying of a open house we're going to have on this Wednesday from 3 to 4 out at the Community Development Office for anybody who wants to come and review the annual action plan or provide any comments on the action plan. The action plan is also posted on the city's website. So neighbors can go out there and read the plan. And then they can either call me or submit or email me with any comments they have on the plan. Again, the request of action is asking the council to open the public comment period. Any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Svenby. At this point, I will open tonight's public comment period. This is a public hearing. Anyone who wishes to be heard on this item, please step forward. Anyone wishing to be heard on this item, please step forward. Seeing no one, we will close the public hearing for this evening and ask members of the
ask you to leave the public hearing open.
I will leave this public hearing open, and it will when we take our motion, we will have a public hearing open until November 3rd. Councilmember Keen.
Yeah, I just want to point out the small administrative problem. I think on page 6 of your summary, I think you missed the Jeremiah project listed. It should be listed as one of the funded projects.
Yep, it's on. Yeah, this right there. It's on this one.
It's on this one.
Yeah, I messed it up. Yeah,
you missed it on the other page.
I know. Yeah.
Oh, thank you,
Mayor Norton. I have a question. Can you talk a little bit about how the 2026 applications and recommendations are either similar or different from last year's, or are there trends in what we're seeing as far as those that are seeking CBG
I think it's
CDBG dollars.
not just, I mean, it's trying to, every year we're trying to spread a wider net to get more organizations realizing that CBG dollars are out there, but it does have to benefit lower and moderate income individuals, and they have to be able to track that the persons are low income. So there's quite a bit of reporting requirements that maybe turn off some individuals or some organizations from applying for CBG funding, but we do get a lot of repeat organizations asking for CBG dollars, but they do have to have a quantifiable increase of service that those dollars are going for. So we just can't keep funding the same program over and over again. There has to be an increase in service unless it's a program that we've started funding from the very beginning. So example, Catholic Charities Warming Center, that was a program that we funded that center their very first year they're open. So the city is able to keep funding that program, even though they're not increasing, but they don't have to have a quantifiable increase in service every year for that program. That answers your question.
Yes. Any other questions? Councilmember Palmer.
Thank you. I have a question on the CO and the smoke detector, $10,000. Who's handing those out and who's qualified to get them?
But that's a program that the fire department would like to start next year. So we will work with the fire department to come up with a method of distributing those fire detectors, but they will have to be income qualified individuals to receive a smoke detector. But that's something we'll work with from now or from November 3rd until we get our funding next year to come up with a program of how they can distribute those smoke detectors and still meet the requirements of the CBG program. But it would be for lower and moderate income individuals. So the fire department will go out and purchase smoke detectors. They would get a phone call from a resident requesting that smoke detector. They have to verify that they qualify for the program as being lower and moderate income individuals. And they would go out and they would install smoke detectors in their homes.
And so I've had some experience with the program, the programs that you have. So they're going to have to provide their W-2 and prove that they're on the 80% AMI. Is that the?
Correct. Yeah. And we do that now. We have a tree removal assistance program where the homeowner documents their income. Either they provide us with their last year's tax statements, so we verify that they qualify for the program.
Okay, and I'm just curious, how did you decide, or who decided to put 3 community members, and how did you decide to pick those 3 community members?
We like to keep the steering. I guess the steering committee has always been around 7 people, and we've always had a notion to. I think we started out with all 7 members being members of the city team. We wanted to get away from being all city teammates and go out into the community to find members. So this year it was kind of sort of late, so we didn't have the time to put out applications to seek individuals to be on the steering committee. So we did some brainstorming between staff and came up with three members that we thought would be suitable for the steering committee. But we are looking at other ways to get other individuals involved in the steering committee.
So the past person recipient isn't receiving any funds this year?
Correct. It was a recipient of a rehab loan. So.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions, council members? Is there a motion on this item? Do we not take action to open the public comment period?
That's what the hearing is for this evening.
Okay, we will move on. Thank you, Mr. Svendy. Moving on to public hearing G2, which is a final plat by Stonebrook of Rochester LLC. Mr. Desmond McGill, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, President Schubring, Mayor Norton, members of the council. Good evening. This is a final plat subdivision for Stonebrook 6th. This consists of 69 total lots, 2 common area lots, and 3 outlots on 62.5 acres. This is located east of Sunnydale Drive Southeast and east of 40th Street 40th Avenue Southeast and south of College View Drive Southeast. The final plat proposes 28 single-family lots and 41 townhome lots. The general development plan for this site was originally approved back in 2002, encompassing single-family homes, townhomes, wetlands, and open space area. The GDP has been revised a few times, the most recent being April of this year. The final plat is consistent with the P2S comprehensive plan land use designation of low density residential. It is also consistent with the R1 and R2 zoning districts which underlie it. And additionally, the recent updated Stonebrook GDP, it is consistent with that. And there is the June 2025 council approval of the preliminary plat for Stonebrook 6 and 7. It is consistent with that. The subdivision will help the city in addressing current shortages of single-family homes. And the Development Review Committee is recommending approval of this subdivision subject to 4 conditions of approval. I do not know if the applicant is here tonight. They did note that if they could not be in attendance tonight, that they would they supported all the conditions of approval that were added. And that concludes my introduction. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. McGill. Is the applicant here or their representative? Seeing not, I will at this point open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to be heard on this item, please step forward. Anyone wishing to be heard on this item, please step forward. Seeing no one, I will close the public hearing and invite my colleagues to ask questions of staff on this item. Any questions? Seeing no questions, is there a motion on this item?
I'll make a motion.
Moved by, are you going to read?
I'll read it.
Okay,
Adopted
yeah.
resolution approving final plat number CD 2025-030 plat by Stonebrook of Rochester LLC to be known as Stonebrook 6 with 4 conditions for the subdivision of 62.5 acres into 69 residential lots, 2 common area lots, and 3 outlots.
Moved by Councilmember Palmer, seconded by Councilmember Fredericks. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Thank you. Moving on to G3, which is a final plat by Noble Development LLC. Mr. McGill.
Yes, indeed. This is a final plat subdivision for Highland Hills Townhomes. This final plat consists of 20 residential townhomes and 1 common area lot on 3.63 acres. This is located on the south side of Queens Drive Northwest and approximately 250 feet east of 55th Avenue Northwest. This final plat proposes those 20, there's single family detached townhomes, or what we would refer to as twin homes, and that 1 common area lot for public utilities, common area driveway. The Highland Hills General Development Plan was initially approved in 2022 and encompassing single family homes, townhomes, and open space. This site has been previously platted as Outlot F as part of the original Ponds of Highland Hills final plat. It is this infilling of this parcel is consistent with the P2S comprehensive plan, the low density residential land use designation, and the R2 zoning district. Additionally, the recently updated Highland Hills GDP. The council approved the preliminary plat for Highland Hills, I think in 2022, and the subdivision will help the city address current shortages in single-family residential dwelling units. The review committee is recommending approval of this application, subject to the 1 condition of approval. That concludes my introduction. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. McGill. Is there the applicant or a representative of the applicant here for this item? Seeing none, we will open the public hearing. Anyone from the public wishing to be heard about this item, please step forward. Anyone wishing to be heard on this item, please step forward. Seeing no one, I will close the public hearing. And council members, any questions for staff?
I'll make a motion.
Go ahead, Councilmember Doring.
I'll move to adopt a resolution approving final plat number CD 2025-031 plat by Noble Development LLC to be known as Highland Hills Townhomes Second, with one condition for the subdivision of 3.63 acres into 20 residential lots and one common area lot.
Moved by Councilmember Doring. Is there a
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember Keen. Any more to add, council members? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Motion passes. Moving on to our reports and recommendations. H1 is our 2026 preliminary tax levy and recommended budget. City Administrator Zelms.
Thank you, Council President, council members, Mayor Norton, members of the public. We have the recommended budget. I want to just share that, as you are aware, it was carefully designed to significantly reduce the levy that was projected last year while still providing additional investment to support services in our growing and diverse community. And I want to provide my appreciation for the dedication of all of our departments for their work on the baseline budget, the submittal of their decision packages that help to invest in the community, and their thoughtfulness in their approach to the budget. In particular, I want to thank Rachel Hoduk and Josh Doer. They are the principal people who work diligently to finalize all of this into the full budget and CIP document. It is 1,081 pages, and you can find that on the city's website, rochesteradmin.gov. You head to the finance section to reports. You can see that all the way back into the brief history of time, but you can find the 2026-2027 recommended budget there with a lot of detail. As you have all participated in, the City Council's discussed the recommended budget over the course of 5 study sessions, starting in April, continuing into June, August, and then the past 2 study sessions of September. We discussed a number of different topics during those study sessions. After the presentation of the recommended budget, that resulted in one change to the 2026 levy, which adjusted the Community Building Fund with an additional $50,000 to enhance that program. And those discussions resulted in a preliminary levy adoption coming forward to you today of $118,284,623. That includes a recommendation to establish the preliminary 2026 operating and capital budget in the amount of $663,901,470, which is inclusive of Rochester Public Utilities, and then establishing Monday, December 1st, 2025 for the public hearing and final adoption of the recommended 2026 tax levy and budget, both operating and capital. So what that means is that we are recommending a $6,639,481 levy change, which represents the year-over-year change in the total levy that would need to be certified for collection to the county to provide revenue to support the recommended 2026 budget. And so the levy, the dollar amount of the levy, is certified then with Olmsted County and then applied across all property based on the tax classification of someone's property. And then the assessed valuation of each property serves as the basis for tax notices that are sent to each individual property owner. So what's happening this evening will result in the forthcoming tax notices that help to inform more specific public comments on the tax levy during the established public hearing in December. And of course, that December 1st, 2025 date and location, as well as time, will be listed on every single tax notice that goes out to individual taxpayers in the city. As we've noted previously, the preliminary tax levy established is the maximum levy that can be levied for 2026. So after this evening, the city tax levy can remain the same or be reduced, but it cannot be increased going forward. I'd be happy to answer any questions. We've met about this a number of times, but that's principally what you would be doing this evening, is establishing the preliminary levy, which establishes those tax notices that go out to each individual tax owner or property owner, excuse me.
Thank you, Administrator Zelms. Any questions from council members? Mayor Norton.
Well, I want to thank the administration for all the work they've done and the many hearings we've had about this and discussions. I think it's been good, and I'm glad we've gotten it out there. I did want to just clarify. So can you tell us, is there a limit on how much a city could levy?
There is a limit on how much a city could levy. We are drastically underneath that limit. And I think people are probably grateful for that. I off the top of my head, cannot give you that number, but it is significantly higher than what the city of Rochester levies. And over the course of the last 11 years, we have hovered between about a 48% and 52% net tax capacity rate, which is that resulting percentage of spreading the total levy dollar amount across all of the property value in the city.
So thank you. So I'm just wanting for the community's understanding to know we could levy significantly more than we are. We do not. We have not chosen to do that historically, nor are we anywhere close to doing that this year. And the other point, which we've hit home every time we've talked, but I want to say it again because I talked to a couple constituents this week who continue to be confused that a 5.95% increase is not what we're increasing in taxes. It is an increase just of the levy portion that we're talking about here, and that their taxes will be impacted by this, but primarily the impact has to do with the valuation of their home. And it gets very confusing for taxpayers when they hear we're increasing our levy by 5.95%, and they don't understand that does not mean a 5.95% for them necessarily. So if you have a clearer way to say that, do so. If not, I think I've made my point, but it is very confusing to residents when we talk about this increase and what that means to them.
Administrator Zelms, any messages that are more concise?
Council President, council members, I think the mayor said it well. Maybe one other way of explaining it is that even if the tax levy didn't change at all, each individual tax bill will adjust based on how much your assessed valuation is relative to the other properties in your class.
Thank you. Councilmember Wall.
I think further complicating that is when they open the envelope, there will be 3 contributors to the property tax. And so whatever the city levies is not necessarily what the school or the county will levy either. So yeah, it just gets, there are multiple levels for possible confusion.
Councilmember Keen.
Yeah, I'll just add that I think when we go through this work, I think it's fairly common for a resident to just watch the high level numbers, and those key facts are the size of the overall budget, but then that percent impact to the levy. And I think some of the key facts get lost underneath there. And one of them that I want to share is the pool of taxpayers in the pool is getting better year over year. So with the money that's being levied for the city, there are additional properties paying that. I believe our tax base went up 2% based on new properties being added. And that's new taxpayers. So for a 5.9%, if all other things equal, it would not turn out to be that much because of the new taxpayers in the pool. But of course, as my peers have pointed out, your mileage will vary. With things like, and then I didn't say that assessed property values are going to go up about 4.5% across the whole tax-paying base. And that's going to have as much and likely more impact on what your tax rate is next year. I was one of the lucky ones in 2025, even with our 9% increase and the county having a 6%, my tax base went down because my property value didn't go up. And those who were getting the higher values were carrying a bigger part of the levy. Going through this, City Administrator Zelms mentioned that net tax capacity, but that's a key metric that I've been watching since I've been doing this. We were as high as 52% of what our tax base was, and we got down as far as 48%, which means that we're basically, for every $100,000 of value you had, you were paying a little bit less in terms of tax capacity. And that's something that it's not a all encompassing indicator, but it's a sign that we're trying to we're managing our expenses. This budget closes at about 49 point something, getting closer to the 50% number. And again, it's not a magic number, but it's a key indicator for me that we're under control. This will always be the balance between are we treating our employees with respect? Are we maintaining our assets for the future? Or are we doing some sort of budgetary tricks of reducing things and pushing responsibility to future councils? And I feel pretty good right now that when I look at what we're spending on our employees, but also on capital improvements and maintaining our buildings and maintaining our assets. I think we're being responsible stewards going forward. Thank you.
Councilmember Palmer.
Thank you. I've got a couple pages here. I think people have to remember that the residential portion of this is going up quite a bit compared to the commercial and the apartments. I'm kind of disappointed in how some of our taxpayer dollars have been used this last year. I go to the RPT Go Micro Transit Pilot Program. It turned out to be $232 per ride. And I don't think $232 per ride is using taxpayer dollars very well. And the cost to us as the city of Rochester Transit Fund was $121,585. That's 20% match. And so I'm disappointed that that's what had to happen. The other thing I'm disappointed in is in the 2025 transit overview, the numbers of ridership is down from almost 2 million before 2019 to 600,000 this year. And they're thinking maybe that they might decrease it by 10%, the overall cost of transit. So I think with the federal dollars and the state dollars, I think that we need to look at that a little bit closer. Somebody asked me why I don't like the library. I like the library. I think it's a great facility. I read and I enjoy it. But our library is the most expensive library in the state of Minnesota. It has the most amount of hours. If you look at the hours from La Crosse to Cedar Rapids to Mankato, Sioux Falls, Fargo, and St. Cloud, and Duluth, you can see on Sunday hours we are more than anybody else. And adding 4 new FTEs for that, to me, just doesn't make much sense. I don't think that they've done a real good job of looking at their budget. It's a $9 million budget. When we asked them what would we save if we closed on a Sunday or a Monday, the response was, well, $100,000. Out of a $9 million budget, that doesn't make much sense. And so then you go into, what do you think it should be? I think 4.8%. I have until December 1st to make that argument, to have 3 other people join me on that. But we're adding an arborist at $124,000. We had a grant for an ADA management coordinator. Now, since we had that grant, we've decided we needed that position. There's $153,000. The north maintenance person is $134,000, and that building doesn't open until maybe August. City council travel doubled from last year, which is not a lot of money, but it doubled. 4 librarians, adding that's $193,000. And so I look at those and go, can we do better? Now we have till December 1 to do better, because this is the top limit that we have. I'm more than happy to look at other things. There are other council members, and we heard this again today in the past, that said, oh, geez, we just need to cut. I don't believe the city is ill managed. I think that we do a pretty good job, but I think these are suggestions that we could do to lower that, because when you go and talk to people in the neighborhood, knock on their door, listen to them, the most frustrating thing for them is that their property taxes are going up. Yes, their property values are going up, but it's getting harder and harder and harder for people to make that payment. And so that's my statement. Obviously, you understand that I will not be voting for this tax levy. I'd like to see it be at 4.8%. We have until December 1st to do better. So I appreciate your time.
Thank you, council member. I'll say a few words at this point. I believe we should be celebrating this 5.9% tax levy. A year ago, this council was sitting here working on getting a 10% tax levy down to 9%. And this is a levy that includes $4 million worth of cuts that our administrator and her very diligent staff work to efficiently look at all the programs throughout the city and cut 4 million and is adding 1.9 million in new spending that will increase our level of service to Rochester residents. This is half of what was projected for 2026, and it is the smallest budget that the administration has given us since COVID. So I really want to commend our diligent staff on working for the people of Rochester, looking at better ways to provide service and continue on this road that we're on at this point. So with that, are there other council members? Councilmember Miller.
I guess I'll just make a brief comment. Thinking about what the mayor said of how we communicate this, how we bring people into the discussion, and in the strategic priorities at the beginning of the year, we've made inclusive growth management and bringing the community in. And I am very excited that in our action plan, we have an opportunity to improve the tools that we use to tell the story of how we develop, how we're providing efficient services, and to continue to tell the story of how we make decisions together. Because I look around our region and I see many communities struggling with double-digit recommendations and then fighting to get down, and in many cases cutting essential services or pushing off the funding of those services to future years. And we are not in that situation. And so I agree with Council President Schubring that we have a staff through the city administrator who have done diligent work to keep this number under control, to continue to provide services. But I look around and this is not something that is unique to the city of Rochester, these pressures of increasing costs, but I think is unique of how tightly we've been able to control this and bring down even the number from last year. And I look forward again to these future discussions of how we're looking at the growth of the community and what types of growth bring prosperity to the community that's felt by all residents, especially looking at the pressure of that tax levy on individual property owners versus being able to grow in a way that we're able to provide the services and it's not an additional burden every year on individual homeowners. So thank you. I will be supporting this.
Seeing no other council members, is there a motion on this item?
Yeah, I'll move
Council
to
member
adopt a resolution certifying the 2026 preliminary tax levy at 118,284,623, which includes 1, establishing the preliminary operating and capital budget amount of $663,901,470 and establishing Monday, December 1st, 2025 for the public hearing and final adoption of the recommended 2026 tax levy and budget, operating and capital.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Keen, seconded by Councilmember Doring. Any more to add, Councilmember Keen?
No, I'm listening to Councilmember Palmer's suggestions, and I know we've gone through some of these same things. There were additional spending at a 2.4% or so. I thought we gave them a clear hearing and went through the reasons for the recommendations came forward. What we didn't go through is the ones that came into staff discussions and didn't get past there. So I'm open to the idea of looking at some of these, but I wrote it down as I think it's a $1.2 million, $1.3 million challenge to a $109 million budget. But again, I'm open to having those discussions, but I'm looking for the new ideas.
Councilmember Doring, anything to add? Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay.
Nay.
Motion passes 5-2 with council members Fredericks and Palmer voting nay. Moving on, you keep looking like you're moving your hand to speak, council member. Moving on to item H2, which is the renewable energy power purchase agreement. And we have our director of power resources, Bill Buddock, to present to us. And I screwed up your last name. So
That's okay.
Give it to me again.
That's okay. Council President Schubring and Mayor Norton and council members. I'm here to deliver, I think in the last council meeting, Tim McCullough was here presenting the plan for reaching our 100% net renewable goal. We do have one on the hook. So we wanted to bring it forward tonight for your approval. Again, the power resource plan consists of 2 parts. There's a reliable capacity piece, and that's met through firm dispatchable generation and battery storage and demand response. The chart below the figures there show the capacity that we need in Rochester. That's the peak load, and it's in the Mid-Continental Independent System Operator or MISO system we are required to cover that. We're required to have control over enough resources to deliver that capacity when we need it. So in the summer, we need close to 300 megawatts. In the fall, it's closer to 250. In the winter, it's down around 200. And then in the spring, it's back up toward about 230. So as you can see, depending on the season, so summer really drives like the maximum capacity that we require. And as you can see, we've divided this up into existing resources. So this kind of the solid gray and pink lines are existing resources. The hash line is the planned resource. So you can see the planned resources. The gray one is 50 megawatts at the Mount Simon station. The green are what the wind projects provide for capacity. So as you can see, it's windier in the winter than it is in the summer and fall. So you get more capacity when you don't need it from the wind. That's why we need other resources. So that's why we have the blue hashtags. That's capacity that we'll need to contract with going forward. That's one step at a time, right? On the right side, you see the renewable energy. Those show the supplies that we have identified. They're not all contracted. They're not all built. But the first step, the first hashed bar there is the contract we're talking about tonight, Adams. So this plan, the way we're complying, we have been trying to adapt to the changes in federal policy. So we have been trying to take advantage of the tax credits while they're there. So we have pulled forward some of this plan into the 2026 to 2028 timeframe. So we're contracting for wind before we really need it. But this means it will be there when we need it. And I have to say it's been refreshing to get the support both of the council, of the RPU leadership team on pulling these contracts together, because based on the number of changes we've seen in policy as we're trying to nail these projects down, if we did not have that support coming into this, we would not be where we are today. So I have to acknowledge the team at RPU and everyone in this room for that support. So we will, this first project, the first wind, is the smaller scale one. There will be 2 more coming forward soon. And these allow us to build up a REC balance by pulling them forward where we can build up that REC balance. You see that the dark line going up. So up until 2030, we'll be banking those RECs and we'll be able to use them for compliance in 2030 and beyond. And that will buy us some time. That's the idea. It's going to buy us time in order to find other resources. And who knows what policy will be like in 4 years. So this is the 22 megawatt Adams Wind project is the contract that you have in before you tonight. This project is currently off contract. It provides about 50,000 megawatt hours per year. Our full load is about 1.2 million megawatts, so it is a small percentage. It does have an existing interconnection and the owner will repower. Now, contracting for an existing one was a lower cost. It's existing, so the development risk is not there. It did not depend on the tax credits in order to be economically viable. And it does, it provides some diversification of supply. And this is our, if you look at the pricing, it does provide a hedge against price increases. As you can see in 2022 and 2023, market prices were very high. And you can see the yellow dashed line is what the cost of the power will be from the wind project. It's basically flat for every megawatt hour that we buy, but the market goes up and down based on supply and demand and what resources are available. So, but what it does is when prices are high, it definitely is a hedge against prices going even higher. When they're lower, it is not a good deal. So, but we don't know where prices are going. So we've locked into the lowest prices we could find. They're taking advantage of the tax credits, and we think that the risk is worth the reward in this case. So it is our first step toward the 100% renewable goal. Is 5% of our energy need. It's locking in pricing, and then it provides the opportunity to repower this project and extend it for another 20 years. The next steps we'll be bringing forward, hopefully in the October 6th meeting. We're still, trying to deal with tariffs and things in contract language. But the wind project at Dodge Center and at North Hills in Iowa, and together those projects will provide about 60% of our overall power supply. So with that, any questions?
Questions? Councilmember Keen.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that we use the word like purchase and then tax credits, but we're calling this a purchase agreement. Can you talk about if this is the RPU like owning versus RPU purchasing?
Yeah, we're purchasing the output from a wind farm that someone else owns. They operate it, and then they sell it. Just whatever output comes from it goes to us. So if they don't produce anything, we don't pay them. But we hope they produce things because we want the renewable energy certificates.
Okay. And can you talk about how that's different than what we had with SIMPA?
So with SIMPA, they have most of the power from SIMPA comes from the Sherco plant, the coal plant, and they own a portion, a stake in that plant. So you can't get away from something when you own it, right? You'd have to find someone else to step into your shoes, which would be difficult to find for Sherco at this point. So that is the difference between that. We own the plant and the output, and we share the operating risk with Excel on that facility. So
okay,
that's the difference.
No, that's very, very good. And I was just trying to, there's a difference between sometimes we're borrowing money and doing these things ourselves. That's on the makes. I just have oversimplified. I know in the utility world, there's all this PPA and power purchase agreements, but I mean, just this example here, in this case, like when we talk about the batteries, when we talk about the on-demand, we're probably owning and running that ourselves as our utility. When we're talking about wind, we're doing it slightly different, where we have a partner that's their business and we're getting the benefits of it.
Yes.
But we're not buying it on the open market. We've committed to a long-term plan for purchasing it.
Yeah, that's right. And the wind projects are typically further away from Rochester. It's hard to put a wind farm in the middle of town. So so we don't have the operating personnel to manage that either. So it is a more efficient contract structure to do a power purchase agreement.
And similarly, we're going out to the finance markets when we were going to build Mount Sinai and things. But in this case, our partner is taking on the capital, and our real thing is our commitment for the next 30 years or the next 20 years to purchase.
Yeah, to buy that power in a 25-year agreement.
Yeah, very good. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else?
Councilmember Miller.
Yeah, thank you. Having the tax levy discussion before this and now talking about RECs and hedging, and I'm not sure that we've gotten any clearer on what we're doing for the average person, but you mentioned people aren't necessarily sure where prices are going, but would it be fair if you were to bet that prices on electricity, no matter the form, are going up?
Yes, the price of everything is going up.
And so if we're looking at a contract that's guaranteeing the price of power for 25 years, I mean, that's simply what we're doing here, right? We're choosing a good price and guaranteeing that for the long term.
Yeah.
So I think that's something that's good for the community to hear.
Yeah.
And I would also just clarify that there are a lot of types of RECs, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we could go out and buy RECs and say, and do nothing else and say we're 100% renewable. But I think it's important to say this is a commitment beyond doing that.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yes.
So with this wind project, if we were not investing here, there's not a guarantee that this would come online, renewable energy. We're buying. We're one of the factors of this getting online.
Yeah, they would not be able to finance this project if they didn't have a long-term contract with a credible.
So would it be fair to say that we are taking action as a community to put renewable energy into the market?
Yes.
Okay. So I look forward to supporting this, and I just wanted to clarify those things because I think there are a lot of ways to be 100% renewable, and some of them are purely accounting games. And this is not, in my opinion, what we're doing here.
Yeah.
And I just want to be clear where we are there. And again, I think, looking at the cost of power, I wish that there were cheap power.
Yeah.
And I think everybody in every community, whether an investor-owned utility or a municipal utility, wishes the power were cheaper. And that's just not something that it seems to me that's available anymore.
Yeah, inflation has affected everything, and it's mostly in the cost of building these things as opposed to the cost of the fuel, because the fuel is free on wind.
So I appreciate the presentation tonight. I look forward to supporting this. And I just say that over the course, I know this is a conversation with the RPU board as well, but how we communicate our goals of emissions reductions and putting renewable energy onto the sort of broader network and the grid, I think is important to beyond just the 100% renewable language, which sometimes can be very confusing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Palmer.
Kind of going back on what Mr. Miller just was saying. So if RPU didn't do this, wind farm would go away. Is that the take on it? Because to me, if it's such a great deal, if we passed on it, why wouldn't somebody else pick it up?
No, someone else would pick it up.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
I would
just
assume.
based the sound of it that all of a sudden power wouldn't be
Well,
available.
for the ones that aren't built yet, this is a little different because it's an existing wind farm. So it's been de-risked.
And that's what gets its tax credits. But if we didn't buy it, someone else would probably buy it, and then that still would be on the market that way.
Yeah.
The other question I have is SEMPA is done with us with 2030, or we're done with them, but we're buying this wind power early, and so there's a cost to us that we're not using this energy. We're getting some credit. Is that what I'm?
Yeah, we'll settle it in the market. So we're basically selling it into the market at whatever the market price.
Subleasing it.
Subleasing, yeah.
On
an hourly basis, yes.
Okay, and obviously I agree with this, and I'm glad that we're doing it, and I appreciate RPU stepping up and letting us know ahead of time what was going on. And but if I remember right, 5 years ago, electricity use went down, and no one ever predicted that. Is the use of electricity still going down?
So I think the biggest factor in reduction in electricity has been the LED light bulb. So that really led to long-term downturn in electric use. But now we're talking about people putting in heat pumps, people buying electric vehicles, data centers going in. So electric use, after years of decreasing, is suddenly on the uprise again.
But no one predicted that it would be going down. 10 years ago, they wouldn't have said that electrical use was going to be dropping.
I think they typically get the forecast wrong, but they eventually caught up. So in the most recent years, they've been keep assuming that the things are more efficient. But
And that's scary when you say the forecasts were wrong, because you're going to tell me that this forecast is right on and wonderful. And
every forecast is wrong.
Okay.
It's just a house. Yeah. This is making sure we have diversification and that we understand the risks and we're able to contain it through a number of scenarios.
And SEMPA, when we went into that agreement, was a great, wonderful idea. It just it's outlived its usefulness for us. And I'm looking forward to us doing 2030. I think municipal electrical is the way to go, and it serves our customers the best that we can. And that's really what the city council is here to do, is to do that. So again, I appreciate your efforts to educate us on this not easy item. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there a motion on this item?
I'd like to move to adopt a resolution authorizing the city to enter into a wind energy purchase agreement by and through Rochester Public Utilities for the Restore Renewables Adams Wind Project.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Keen, seconded by Councilmember Miller. Councilmember Keen, any more to add?
Yeah, I just think most times that I've been in these discussions between being RPU for the last couple of years, just as a citizen trying to understand this, and also as council, we do get caught up sometimes. And Councilmember Miller tries to bring up the RECs. I'd like to leave that off the table and really talk about what we're doing to protect rates and reliability and these sort of things in our community, because we have this. We're not just on a mission to say no matter what it costs, we're going to get to net zero greenhouse gases. We're doing this in a responsible manner. And this is what we're struggling is to find these things in this dramatically changing world between, you talk about the cost of everything, because it's not just the city of Rochester or Xcel competing for this energy now. There's a bunch of new players in the field trying to purchase what's available, and it's changing the markets. And the whole regulatory environment is difficult to understand right now too. But just looking at this on its face, I would say there is a nominal risk with locking in prices in 2027. But to me and to the professionals that we've been working with, say these are good bets to be making, not just for for the environment and for the long term, but for the cost for the citizens of Rochester. These are reasonable, responsible hedges that we're taking on.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion passes. Thank you very much. Moving on to H3, which is designating the office of the city clerk to administer and regulate administrative citations and enforcement. This is an item pulled by Councilmember Wall. Councilmember Wall.
Thank you. I move to table F7 until such time as the city has opportunity to communicate with, to seek feedback from, and to answer questions from licensees who potentially will be affected by this item.
Second.
There's been a motion made by Councilmember Wall and seconded by Councilmember Palmer. Councilmember Wall.
Yes, I don't believe that there's any urgency to this particular item, and I've had two people with licenses in the community approach me with just some confusion as to what this might mean in terms of their appeal processes, in terms of judicial versus administrative actions, the levels of fines that could be levied. There's just enough discomfort on their part and mine that I think that we can clear that up before we make this administrative change at the council level.
I see Mr. Cartwright has come to the microphone. Can you give us kind of a brief outline of the item and then address the urgency that whether or not there's urgency to pass this evening?
Certainly. The item itself, which is allowing the office of the city clerk to write citations, is in pairing with the already existing chapter 1-2. And if you look at the chapter itself, you'll notice that there are several license types which already exist, which are already accounted for in ordinance in regards to administrative citations: alcohol and gambling, gambling itself exclusively, sewer, dangerous dogs, etc., etc. Those license types are managed by the office of the city clerk today. What we cannot do under the current writing of the ordinance is issue any citations for those license types. 1-2 already allows for citations to be written. It is already codified into law. The resolution that's before you today formally allows under, I believe it is 1-2-3, wherein there are different entities allowed by the city council to issue citations: community service officers, police officers, the city administrator, and the common council, to extend that provision to the office of the city clerk. Similar provisions have been extended, for example, to parks when they do their administrative citations for tall grass and weeds. They've been extended to the Public Works Department when they do their citations for snow removal. And so what the office of the city clerk is essentially asking is for similar consideration to be made to us, to allow us to write citations when we see those violations. If you'll give me just 2 more minutes, I want to very briefly talk about judicial elements, because I think there's been a little bit of confusion here. The city of Rochester is the arbiter and the issuer of licenses. This is not a judicial process. You do not go through the criminal court process for suspensions, revocations, probations of your licenses. You go through the city of Rochester, whether that avenue is yourselves, the full common council, or an administrative hearing officer. It is something that goes through municipal governance. Should a ruling be determined through that process and an appeal made outside, so let's say that the city council body were to allow the revocation of a license, then the judicial process could come into being. But for all processes before that, it all happens in-house. So again, with the citation process, that would remain in-house. So the intent here is just a little bit of cleanup and a little bit of efficacy. Thank you.
Councilmember Keene.
A couple questions. One is, I think there was a question about is there anything imminent about this change right now, or this is just good hygiene that we should do this to make a more efficient clerk's office? Or is there a reason to do this before December when something happens?
The immediacy element of it is similar to any time when we basically needed to get this done. You can certainly table this. We can certainly engage with the community about it. But I think the fundamental question that I would have here is the ordinance is already written. The ordinance already exists. So, and I would certainly look for council direction. What exactly is the engagement that we are looking for? Are we engaging the community to ask the question of whether the overarching body that already issues the licenses should have the authority to issue citations, or should that remain with community service officers? So I guess in that particular instance, I would just want guidance on exactly what a town hall would look like and what questions the office of the city clerk is asking about this.
Other questions? Mayor Norton.
Yes, I'm just looking for clarity. So you're not changing the fact that people are getting the citation. It is just who is issuing it, whether it be the community service officer, the CSO, or your office.
Thank you for that question. I think the issue at play, honestly, here is on a question of ownership. Because the office of the city clerk are the subject matter experts on a lot of our license types, when alcohol and gambling, for example, potentially has a violation, when, let's say, a vending cart has a violation, it really is our office that typically is taking action on this, but we do not have the tools to use a citation process. Community service officers primarily are doing traffic tickets, et cetera, et cetera. Police officers really are wanting to operate on the streets and handle heavier crimes. So that's the intent here.
Okay, thank you.
I see Councilmember Wall is next, but I'm going to ask Councilmember Wall if he can clarify, if we table this item, what do you want to see before it comes back to the council? And do you have a time frame for tabling the item?
Yes, thank you. I don't dispute a word that Mr. Cartwright has offered to us. Thank you. I do believe it's good governance to try and be in communication with the people for whom these differences either are perceived or real to them in terms of how the viability of their businesses, even up to and including the potential loss of a business. Obviously, that's an extreme case. The citation would have to be quite a problem. As far as a timeline, I don't have a timeline. I think it's more up to the clerk's office in terms of an ability to help address some of the questions amongst the licensees in the community so that we can move together.
Thank you. Any further discussion on this? Mr. Cartwright, go ahead.
Just one final point I want to make about some of the logistics. Thank you for that clarification, by the way. So 1-2 is very narrow. It really talks and deals with citations. When you get into some of that particularly concerning element, the revocation of a license, the suspension of a license, typically the governing ordinances of those particular license types come into play in terms of them having to go through the appeal process here in front of the city council. So that's part one. Part two of the consideration for 1-2, again, speaking frankly from a logistical standpoint, is, and I'm happy to reach out to businesses, but the businesses that currently are licensed with the office of the city clerk, frankly speaking, are not our problem. They typically are wanting to adhere to city ordinances. We have tools in our toolkit, probationary measures, suspension measures, writing letters of warnings. We know who they are. I can reach out and talk to them and send out a communication and certainly have a town hall. The main prong of problem are businesses that do not, will not, and have very little interest in obtaining licensure and do not feel that there is a valid methodology that the city can implement to gain their willful compliance outside of going through a process that does, to the point of, I think, some of the people that are concerned, involve criminal courts for matters that might be disproportionate for the level of offense that the city has concerns about.
So, Mr. Cartwright, if we were to table this item this evening, what would you see the city clerk's office doing in the interim, and as far as reaching out to businesses, and what kind of time frame would you see this coming back to us?
I would reach out to all of the licensed businesses that would be impacted by 1-2. I would inform them about the movement towards an administrative fine process. I would likely have forums that would be organized just to get general feedback from those businesses that could potentially be affected. And once those forums have occurred, we would likely bring this back as, again, a consent agenda resolution. So I can't speak 100% to timelines, but I would imagine sometime maybe in November or December.
Councilmember Miller.
So I appreciate the concern from my colleagues. I guess I'm curious about the alternative action where if people have questions, why they're not just calling you so you can clarify that the ordinance exists and provide additional information as needed. Because it's my understanding that in our August 18th meeting, I believe, that we took the more substantive change to add additional license types to the administrative fine process. And tonight we would be taking a more minor approach, really an organizational approach, to give the city clerk's office the ability to, as the department most engaged in that process, have additional oversight of the streamlining the logistics, so to speak.
That's correct.
Change tonight that would raise my feeling that we need to set up a bunch of forums that probably at some cost that people have other remedies to get clarification and get feedback.
Councilmember Wall.
Thank you, Councilmember Miller. People do reach out. In fact, one of the two people that I spoke to had a 30-minute conversation with Mr. Cartwright today. So, and that was reported to me. People are seeking to try and be better informed.
Councilmember Keen.
I'm watching this, and I saw this on our agenda, and outside of the clerk's office and I almost think of this as more of a closed office efficiency. You don't have to reach out to other groups, but it does remind me of a thing that I'm trying to deal with. And that's the fact that we have other administrative rules, like our zoning rules, that we don't have any citation capability for. And I know I've worked before with community development of saying, like, how come our only recourse is to go to district court? And the answer is because we don't have administration. We don't have that. Well, I shouldn't say we don't have, we have decided not to have the ability to do fines or citations, because if you do, you have the extra added weight of having to have like a court thing or a judge on staff that can hear these. And outside of just what we're talking about with the clerk's office, I'm gonna kind of open this up a little bit to staff to say, is there a reason that some areas in the city, like tall grass or like snow removal, have the ability to charge and fine, in other areas like zoning infractions and other zoning enforcement that happens through our community development group, their only recourse is to take someone to court?
Mr. Spindler Craig, that sounds like a legal question.
Thank you, Councilmember Keen, Council members, Mayor Norton. It is in part a legal question. It's also a question that Mr. Cartwright is probably in a good position to answer as well. Part of the nuance that Councilmember Keen is identifying is the difference between administrative citations and criminal citations, and some level of statutory limitation on a municipality's ability to utilize an administrative citation process. It's not carte blanche where we just get to decide what types of offenses we can handle on our own outside of the criminal process. So as you correctly identified, there has been discussion in the past about whether it could make sense, would make sense to use permissible administrative citation process in some of these other subject areas. Certainly something that can be an ongoing discussion or reconsideration, and Mr. Cartwright may have some additional insights on that.
If I could just first, I mean, I understand what you're saying, that I'm really not trying to take zoning infractions into the criminal courts. I'm talking about the way we do snow removal and long grass, that we do allow parks and we allow public works to both like fine people for their infractions and escalate the fines if it continues, where we don't allow that in our zoning thing. So I'm not sure if I'm framing it correctly, but any insights?
Councilman, I'm going to ask for a little order here because I was ready to recognize Councilmember Palmer. If you want to be recognized after a member of the staff has answered the question, please look to the council president and then I will recognize you. So,
thank you.
Councilmember, are you looking for another answer?
I thought the attorney was asking Mr. Cartwright to respond, but I don't think that's going to happen.
Councilmember Palmer.
Thank you. My question is for the city attorney. If I remember correctly, weeds and those items are put up against the property and the property owner, if that's correct?
Correct.
And part of the problem with zoning and from a building code perspective is I have to have the person's real name. I have to have their birth date, and those are sometimes hard to attain. Is that not correct?
That is sometimes a challenge.
But those are requirements.
Yes.
I mean, it has to be Sean Charles Palmer. It can't just be Shawnee, as an example.
True.
My grandma. Okay. So, I mean, so there's kind of the problem that we have when we go to the citation part of it. And I do understand why Mr. Wall made it. So I appreciate your answer.
Any further discussion on this? Councilman, Administrator Zelms.
Council President, I just want to point out for the record that one of the things that Mr. Cartwright suggested was that this would come back on a future meeting on consent. However, if the motion is to table, you have a section on your agenda that in order to remove something off of the table, you have to put it in the tabled items, remove it from the tabled items, and then move forward with commencing to discuss it again. Typically, in a situation like this, we would move to continue to either a date certain or continue. I just want to point that out, that tabling and continuing are a little bit different than what I think was getting discussed here.
So I would recommend to the clerk's office that if this were to pass the motion, that this go on the tabled items and it will stay there until you're ready to address it again. Is that how we would do that, Clerk Kasel? From a parliamentary procedure?
From that perspective, then we would need a motion to take it off the table in order to bring it back. But if we continue it, then we could bring it back when Mr. Cartwright was ready to bring it back.
Does that work for you, Councilmember Wall, if this motion were to pass?
I think either works. It is no problem to make a motion to bring something off the table. It's simply a council action.
Just for clarity, we would not put it on tabled items until we were ready to ask you to take it off of the table, which would then be two actions on that evening to take it off of the table in order to be able to discuss the actual item. Just clarifying, that's how that works.
Go ahead, Councilmember Wall.
Which I think makes more sense because it gives more leeway to the clerk's office in terms of being able to do the work necessary to bring information back to us that will make it successful.
Okay, so there's a motion on the floor to table item H3, the former F7. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay.
Nay.
Motion passes 5-2 with council members Miller and Doring voting nay. Moving on to Ordinance first readings. Go ahead, Mr. Spindler Craig.
Thank you, Mr. President. There's one first reading, item J1, an ordinance annexing to the city of Rochester approximately 120 acres of land located southwest of the intersection of Country Club Road and 45th Avenue Southwest. Moving on to the second reading, item K1, an ordinance amending section 1-2-3 of chapter 1-2 of the Rochester Code of Ordinances relating to administrative enforcement procedures.
Our motion on
Move
this.
approval.
Moved by Councilmember Keen. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember Miller. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Thank you. Moving on to other business, we are now going to recess to a meeting of the Rochester Economic Development Authority. And moving to our EDA meeting, I will call the meeting to order. We have no organizational business on our consent agenda. We have the minutes from the August 11th meeting. Is there a motion to adopt the consent agenda?
I'll move approval.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Keen, seconded by Councilmember Palmer. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Moving on to our public hearings, we have one public hearing, which is establishing Development District number 86 and Tax Increment Financing District number 86-1 and entering into a development assistant agreement with Rochester Lower Town Apartments LLC. Mr. Svenby.
Good evening again. I guess I get to bookmark the public hearings this evening. So what we have before you this evening is the establishment of a tax increment financing district and asking for the EDA council approval to enter into a development assistance agreement for the Lower Town project. So here's the slide before you, kind of shows some pictures of the block. It doesn't bend up. Oh, there we go. On the slide before you shows the bottom is a rendering of the potential project to be located on the site, with the pictures above showing what the block used to look like before the homes were removed in 2024. The project details, the developer is Rochester Lower Town Apartments LLC, located between 8th and 9th Street Northeast, west of 1st Avenue Northeast. The development is a 5-story, 133-unit apartment building with 66 of the units restricted to individuals at or below the area median income of 120%. Amenities include below grade and surface grade parking, fitness room, club rooms, and rooftop deck. The building on the east side along 1st Avenue does have some walk-up units, as you can see in the rendering in the upper right-hand corner. The timeline for the project would begin construction by June of 2026 and completed by December 30th of 2027. This is a redevelopment TIF district, so it's not a housing TIF district. The city uses three TIF districts that the city typically uses. One is a redevelopment district, the other one is a housing TIF district, and the other one is the economic development district. This one is being done as a redevelopment district since the properties on the site were blighted, and last year the EDA adopted a blight study for the site itself. The area shown on the slide, the area in red, is the approximate location of the TIF district boundary. That's where the apartment building would fall. And then just to the north of that red line, the developer is proposing to build 10 units of townhouses on that area. The current estimated property value within that TIF district is about $1.3 million. And upon completion of the project, the county assessor's office has estimated that the project will have a market value of about $27.4 million. So it is important to note out that when the TIF district is created, the taxes that the property is generating today still collected and distributed to the school, the county, and the school, the city, the school, and the county. And then the increment that the project generates based off the project being built there, that difference is collected and generally goes back to the developer. In this case, the city would collect 5% to cover administration expenses of the district. 90% would go to the developer and 5% would go into our pooled TIF bucket that we would pool the increment over the life of the district, and that the city could use those dollars for affordable housing measures within the community. The last time the city used pooled increment through this would be for the Restoration Glen project, which is off of Mineral Road. This would be as a be done as a TIF note. It would be a pay-as-you-go TIF note. Basically, the burden is on the developer to pay the taxes, and basically those taxes gets rebated back to the developer minus the current valuation that's existing there now for taxes, and then minus the 5% and 5% for admin and the 5% for the affordable housing. Based on the development assistance agreement for the project, staff is proposing that the amount of assistance was just about $3.9 million in principal. It's estimated that it would take about 20 years to pay back that TIF note. That is in principal, and so it would include principal and interest over that 20-year life of the TIF district. Some of the projects or benefits of the project, it would be a kind of a mixed income housing project where 66 of the units would be restricted to individuals earning at or below 120% of the AMI. It advances multiple goals. It's redeveloping a blighted property. As council members correctly, in those what the block used to look like, a number of homes were boarded up, and we had a number of complaints about those properties. It's increasing density in the lower town neighborhood, especially along a primary transit network along North Broadway. It's strengthening neighborhood safety, and then that tax base is growing. Granted that the taxes would be captured during the life of the TIF district, but once that TIF district is decertified, the city is capturing all that increase in tax base, not just for the city, but also for the county and the school district. As previously mentioned, there's 66 of the units would be restricted to a 120% AMI. There's through the slide in here to show you what that is. So basically, one person that is about $105,000. Would point out like a two-person family is about $120,000. So if you think about young professionals, teachers, nurses, police officers, if you have a married couple, they're probably pretty close to that 120% AMI level for a two-person family. So the request action this evening is the adoption of a resolution that establishes a TIF district and then authorizing the execution of the development assistance agreement for the project. The developer is in the audience, and I believe he will speak during the public comment period.
Thank you, Mr. Svendy. Is the applicant or representative of the applicant here? Please step forward, state your name, and 10 minutes to discuss your project.
Awesome. Thank you. Good evening. My name is Dirk Erickson with Stack Development. We are excited to bring this project, our second project, to Lower Town. We feel that it's going to be a great asset for the community, for the Lower Town neighborhood, be on the TOD corridor, bring new housing, bring in different types of housing that were there, and add additional multifamily properties to the city. I have the architect here as well, if there are any additional questions for that.
We may have questions after the public hearing unless you have a statement to make at this point. You may be seated. We'll call you back after the public hearing. Thank you, Councilmember Fredericks, for turning my mic on. This is a public hearing. Anyone wishing to be heard on this item, please step forward. Please state your name, and you have 5 minutes.
Hello, thank you, Council President Schubering. My name is Benjamin Zastro. I'm president of the Lowertown Neighborhood Association, and I support this ask tonight. This looks like a fantastic project for the neighborhood. As you know, it was a very troubled area before. It was quite miserable, I would say. The developer stack has been fantastic so far, even going so far as to leave the trees up on that lot, giving us kind of a year and a half of some serenity, some peace to kind of recover from what was going on. They've been fantastic anchors in the neighborhood on the south end with Brick, their other project. So I really support this. I think it has a lot of positive externalities as well. We'll see probably 100+ workers that will shop at our businesses. They'll buy ice cream cones, Philly cheesesteaks, banh mi's, all the great things going on in the neighborhood. Hopefully fill up at the gas station there. And then 133 households that will shop in the neighborhood and also be within walking distance to the new Silver Lake pool facility. So I just see a lot of positive upside here in this, the potential deal to support this project. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Zastro. This is a public hearing. Anyone wishing to be heard on this item, please step forward. This is a public hearing. Anyone wishing to be heard on this item, please step forward. Seeing no one, I will close the public hearing and invite our applicants back up to make any closing comments.
No real closing comments, but I appreciate you guys taking the time to look at this and look forward to the outcome.
Thank you. I'll open up to council members for questions. Councilmember Keen.
First question just for staff. I'm a little surprised that maybe I don't have the numbers right, but it appears that there is a $40 million project that's going to assess at about 70% of that value when it's built. Is that common?
That's common. Yep. It's pretty common that the projects are being assessed about 70 to 75% of the construction cost.
Okay. All right. Thank you. And then again, I just wanted to go back to the you brought your architect with. I just want to give her a chance in case there's anything that is unique that we should take into an advisement on this project.
And please state your name before you speak.
Yeah, Mary Barnett with Urban Works Architecture. You know, we've had a great joy working on this project with Stack. It is our first project with them. We feel that they bring a really good light and a good refreshing feel to multifamily housing. They truly care about what they're putting in here. That was one of the first things that we talked about when we met, was how can we bring a building to this neighborhood that really reflects a healthy living environment, giving back to our community. It's not something we hear from all the developers that we work with. So yeah, we're very excited for the project as well. 133 units, varying from studios to 1-bedrooms to 1-bedroom plus dens, 2 bedrooms. I think it's giving the neighborhood a good variety. 114 parking stalls. We don't always get that 85% rate of parking. Again, we work with a lot of people that are trying to minimize that as much as possible and not give that back to their residents. And then a great amenity package for the people living here, and really, giving them a healthy place to live, fitness centers, bike spaces, a winter garden has been discussed of, how can we bring support our cold Minnesota winters into a place inside. So those are kind of some of my main features. If there's anything else, I'm happy to answer.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Councilmember Wall.
Thank you. My question is for Mr. Svenby, and you were on the precipice, I think, of helping to dispel some kind of community notion about TIF, which is not an easy concept, I think, for a lot of people. How would you answer someone who says, why is the city giving $3.9 million to a developer and raise my property taxes?
But first of all, it's not raising property taxes because the taxes that the property is currently generating is still captured. It still gets distributed to the 3 entities. The taxes that the property will pay once the property is developed is being paid by the developer, and those property taxes are being rebated back to the developer. And then eventually once that TIF is, or once the city's obligation is met and paid off, and then that full valuation comes onto the tax rolls, creating additional taxes that is being captured by the three entities. So
And is
what-
actually a benefit to the community.
benefit to the built community. It's providing housing, much needed housing, it as shown by the recent Maxwell study. So this is helping filling that need in the community.
And something that's assessed at 27 million in 2028 is not likely to be assessed at 27 million in 2048.
No, it's projected to increase, one would think, over time. The projection that I ran it as a flat rate over 20 years. So more than likely that this district will be decertified before the 20 years is up. So
Yes, I suppose
assuming
the-
that the value increases every year.
The real risk is, if some a magic developer came in and put in 9 $500,000 houses with no ask of TIF, of course, that would add to the tax base in year probably 2, but that's not likely to happen.
Not likely to happen, and this is a much better use of the property by creating the density at that site to help support the businesses along North Broadway.
Thank you. Very good answers.
Councilmember Palmer. Go ahead, Councilmember.
I'll make a motion adopting a resolution establishing a tax increment financing district through approval of Economic Development District number 86 and the tax increment financing district plan number 86-1. Also authorizing execution of a development assistance agreement with Rochester Lowertown Apartments LLC for tax increment financing district number 86-1.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Palmer, seconded by Councilmember Keen. Councilmember Palmer.
Well, I'll just kind of go off of what Mr. Wall was saying. In the city of Rochester has used very little of their TIF ability. It's a great, wonderful program. Sometimes people don't understand it. If you had walked in that neighborhood a year and a half ago, you would be dismayed at how bad it was. And the neighborhood put up a lot of grief that they shouldn't have had to do. But the buildings are down and this developer has purchased this property and has done a very good job of working with the neighborhood. So I'm glad for that.
Councilmember Fredericks.
Just want to thank the family for this community.
Councilmember Keen.
Yeah, I'll stay. I spent a little bit of time on this one because this is one where we are giving a fairly, near 10% of the product development costs. And that idea of affordable housing, we're really getting workforce housing up to 120% AMI, which is a little different. So it took a little bit, but I think the key thing here is this idea of redevelopment of a blighted neighborhood. I worry sometimes that this becomes a strategy to blight a neighborhood so that we can get the TIF. I know that wasn't the case here, but I think, again, I'm willing, after hearing the different sides of this, to support this tonight with the idea that it is that redevelopment of an area that was troubled and that contribution towards getting the density along that North Broadway corridor.
Councilmember Doring.
This is going to be a tricky question, but I think it would be helpful for those in the community who might be watching at this point to understand what a rent would be for someone whose rent is limited with having an income at 120% AMI as opposed to being market rent rate for a rental unit. So is there any way that you could talk about the difference between those two, just using general numbers? I know it's really hard even for this particular property, right? So say you're looking at a 1-bedroom apartment in this facility, what would the rent be at 120% AMI as opposed to paying market rate for that same 1-bedroom apartment?
Well, we would look at their income. So you would take 30% of their income.
Yep.
Divide that by 12, and that would be their maximum rent that they would pay for their unit. So I just grab that calculator so I can figure this out.
I'm asking you to math, so I don't have to.
All right. I suppose we could ask Derek Erickson. He probably knows off the top of his head, but we'll just do it quick. about $2,600 a month in rent
Okay,
for,
it's so, and then what would a typical market rate in that same unit be?
that could be whatever,
Whatever it would,
whatever the developer could charge, that would be rentable. I don't know what, I mean, Dirk's rents are probably somewhere in that $2,600 a month rental range, maybe up to 2,800. I mean,
okay,
I saw a market study at one time that had various projects listed on the various rents for the units, and I think the average was somewhere around $1,900 a month, I believe. So
the reason I ask is I like TIF as well. I think it's an important tool to use. I'm a fan of using TIF for for affordable housing. And I think that there's a perception that even if someone is making above AMI, that that housing is again is kind of a luxury, right? And that AMI it's still a reach to get into housing in this community.
Yep.
So that's what I was trying to do in this little thought experiment, which I think I failed at, but that's okay.
and we'd be talking differently if this was a housing TIF district. This is
Right.
being done as a redevelopment district because it's
Absolutely.
moving blight. So
Yeah.
Any other questions? There's a motion on the table. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Moving on, we have no reports and recommendations, no other business. Is there a motion to adjourn the EDA meeting to return to the city council meeting?
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Wall, seconded by Councilmember Doring. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Moving on to, is there any other business for this evening? Seeing none, is there a motion to accept the findings of the Rochester EDA?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Miller and seconded by Councilmember Keen. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Any other business now? Seeing none, is there a motion to adjourn?